welcome everybody. This is the first episode of Italian Ancestry, and we're delighted to have Catherine Conti with us today to talk about her past, her parents, and her life just a bit. And of course, this is a segment that will be on our website, the Italian American Foundation website. Catherine, welcome. So nice to see you.
Okay, thank you, and I'm so happy to give you all the information that I know.
And we had a wonderful conversation about your neighborhood before we started
Right.
chatting, and we do have friends and relatives in common.
Right,
And it was so
absolutely.
nice having
I've
that.
known them for many, many years, and the whole family.
Yeah, it's funny how things work out like
Isn't
right?
that strange?
I feel right at home in this neighborhood again. I
Wow.
used to spend a lot of time here.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so it was easy for you to get up here.
It was
Everybody gets lost, but
Yeah.
okay,
No,
whatever.
I remember this neighborhood when there were hardly any homes here. As a matter of fact, I think my aunt and uncle, Rosalie and Tony Manine, were the first house up in this neighborhood.
Oh, really? Well, I was the last here in this block.
Yeah.
But then further on, they whoever came here or decided, well, I will build there, and then it got completely. Everybody came up here,
It's a beautiful neighborhood.
and it's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were talking about some of the wonderful artifacts, some of the wonderful things in your home that belong to your parents, and we want to talk a little bit about that.
Wow.
But tell us a little bit about your family, where your parents, maybe where your grandparents originally came from.
Both my parents came from the same area. It's called Trentinara, Trentinara, and that is in Provincia di Salerno. It's the Campania region, and how far is it from? I wonder
It's
from
about an hour, a little bit more than an hour from Naples.
Naples,
south.
yeah. And it wasn't very far from Paestum also.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was that. But where they were from, Trentinata, they were about almost 2,000 feet from sea level. So it's really, really up there.
Yeah.
And
Have you traveled back to the area yourself?
Yes, several years ago, I did it with my daughter and her husband, and we stayed there because it's really a long story. I have a cousin that I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and my cousin was my mother's brother's son. And my uncle went there he only had one son, so he went to Italy with his wife and his son for a vacation and never came back. Never. And his son, now, when we were in Italy, of course, we talked to, his name is Frank, and we found out a lot about how difficult it was for him to go back at the age of 15.
Mm-hmm.
So we spent so much time with them, and we have so many pictures to show you later about, Frank and the rest of the family that we met, and there's too much to
We
talk
actually stayed in the house that my second cousin owns, and it was right across the street from where my grandfather was born, and it was right down the street from where my grandmother was born. So they met here,
Yeah.
but they married and they met in the U.S., but they were both from the same town, literally.
I will show you all the...
So they met in the U.S.
Apparently, they must have known each other in Italy. No.
What brought them to the United States?
Well, when my father came over, my brother, I was speaking to him today, my brother said he came over with one of his brothers and his sister. There were three of them, but my father first settled in New York. We don't know if the three of them were together or my father just spent time in New York. And it's such a long history. Right?
I can chime in here.
And by the way, this
Catherine's-
is Joan. This
Yeah.
is Catherine's daughter.
Right.
That's with us as well.
So we've done a lot of research, but evidently my great grandfather had a chestnut farm in Trentinara, And with 8 children, there's just not enough farmland to split it up and have the boys have enough of a income. So part of their reason for leaving is opportunity. My grandfather came to the U.S. He actually worked with his brother Joe, who was a tailor. So my grandfather learned how to become a tailor. So then to my grandmother's side, she came here because her family who had settled in the Bronx near Arthur Avenue, one of her family members, they were putting one of their sons through medical school. They needed help in the house. My grandmother came here to help get money together because as everybody pulls their resources as immigrants. And I think it was a very positive experience. And how they met, it's probably just because, you know, they're paisans, right? Everybody knows everybody from the towns that they come from. So that's kind of what happened.
But he did become a doctor.
Yeah.
And my mom said everybody worked there because they had about 7 children where my mom stayed in the Bronx. 2282 Arthur Avenue. We went there all the time. And then everybody that worked had to pool their money for Frank. Frank became a doctor in I forgot what was the name of that hospital. Montefiore. He was a pillow there. I think everybody knew him. But also on my grandma's family, in Brooklyn. My grandma had a sister in Brooklyn near Prospect Park. Oh, there's so much in the family. And there also was a doctor there. There was a doctor. There was a pharmacist. There was everything in the family. And this is way back when. There was a CPA. Because my father used to say one of them took care of his business. We'll get into that later. But there's so much to talk about in my father's family, because that's what we're doing today. But even my mother's family, there's so much to discuss.
That's what happened.
Because there's like, I have the all his brothers there, the names, if you're interested.
Yeah. Let me just ask you this, though. I'm curious. Growing up, did you have special Italian traditions in your family? What did you do? What were some of the fun things you did?
Oh, traditions. Everything was a tradition. I mean, even Sunday was a tradition. That if you weren't there at 12 o'clock, that was it. I mean, even for lunch, everything. And my mom was the best cook and the best baker.
What happened at 12 o'clock? Why 12 o'clock?
Because my father was a man of punctuality.
Everybody had to eat together. That's what it was. Everybody comes together and they have a big Sunday dinner. So at 12 o'clock you needed to be there.
But tradition, I can't tell you how much of tradition. Holiday time tradition, our holiday started Christmas Eve. It was my father's birthday. From Christmas Day, every single day was a holiday till New Year's. Every day, I think, and everything was most of the time in our house, but my grandmother's also. And if you don't want to know anything about my grandma?
Sure I do.
Oh, you do? Okay. My grandma, when she had, she's a very, very fussy person. I could not walk, I could walk into the house. I could not could go as far as the vestibule, and she would say, I have to see your hands. And she would march you to the bathroom. She was so super, I don't know how to say it, a perfectionist. And you had to be perfect. I mean, otherwise you couldn't go into the house. So then, over there, is another very interesting thing. We had many, many dinners there because she only lived 3 blocks away from us. My uncle upstairs is the opera singer, and his 2 friends, one is from Park Avenue, was an opera singer. The other fella that came was an opera singer. Well, they would sing, you have no idea. I have never been to anything like this, to anybody's house that had what we had over there. Oh, the singing. So I got so interested in opera because my uncle was at the Academy of Music in Brooklyn in La Traviata, or I don't know how many operas, but I kind of like opera, but a lot of my kids don't care for it too much, but that's beside the point.
So,
You have no idea the traditions?
yeah.
Oh,
What about the food? I mean, we're all Italians in this room. Italians and food go together. Tell us about some of the special recipes. Tell us about Christmas Eve and the food.
well, okay, we'll talk about even before Christmas Eve. My mother baked maybe 10 different pies. I don't know, 10, 12, because she felt
What kind? What kind
Oh,
of pies? He wants to know.
it's made with ricotta. What do you call that? Ricotta pie.
Ricotta
The
pie.
ricotta. And then
Pizza
there was the
dolce?
other kind of pie with all like salami and cheese inside.
Yeah, we
I
had
forgot.
that.
What do you call
My
that?
grandmother made that.
Pizza rustica.
Pizza.
Well, yeah.
rustica,
Oh,
yeah.
yes, that. And then strufel.
Oh, yeah.
You know, with the honey.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so much of that. And my mother's focus was not only the family here.
Yeah.
My
Even
mother
like
had
people
to
in.
take care of the neighborhood.
Everybody.
My mom had, and then not only that, in my house, my mom had to always have luncheons for everybody, but they never had it. But my mother loved it, and the ones that came from the Bronx, whatever they wanted, my mother would make. My mother served everybody, and my family owned. It was a 4-family house.
Mm-hmm.
So when our neighbor moved in, because we lived in the biggest apartment, the other apartment, my father's sister and her husband, they had no children, and they lived there. So we did have 2 rentals downstairs. My mother would cook for those young couples. Well, the couples, they were young.
Were they Italian?
And yeah, I'll never forget Santa and Paul. And then Santa was very meticulous about the apartment. And sometimes they decided that they wanted to paint the room or something. And my mother said, "Don't worry." And my mother would bring the food to them. And not only that, my mother took care of the woman, the other tenant that lived there. They owned a corner luncheonette and candy store. So they happened to be Jewish. And because I lived in my neighborhood was mostly Jewish
And Italian.
and Italian.
That's what it was.
See, my mother helped everybody. Not only my mother, okay, it's a long story. We had a country home. We lived in Brooklyn, but we had another home in Sullivan County.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever hear of Burlingham?
No,
Oh, no. Okay, did you ever hear of Bloomingburg?
of course, yes.
Okay, we are in the middle of Pine Bush, Burlingham, and Bloomingburg. My father invited everybody. Everybody is welcome at our house. Everybody.
Yeah.
And this is the way we do it now,
It's
too.
the Italian way.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're speaking with Catherine Conti. Her daughter Joan Lonergan is with us as well, having a delightful conversation today. So, Catherine, tell us a bit more about your dad and how special he was.
We're going to still start when he was young.
Mhm.
What was he, 17? I think he was 17 years old. And when he was in Italy, he was inducted into the service. He was in the service.
Mhm.
He was there. 3 of the family was in during World War One. At that time, it was 1912. Do you think it was 1912, Joe? Okay, it was about that time because Italy entered the war later,
Mhm.
and then we don't know exactly. My father was captured by the Germans, and he was in prison. So this is what started him out at a very young age. He was in prison, and he was in It's called UUM, Germany. Yep. And he talks about this all the time. I mean, he talked about it being in prison, and it was very, very, very difficult. I'm not going to tell you everything that he went through, but later in life, my father did live to 101. But you know why? He said because when he was in prison, and he ended up getting out. The war was November 11th. I forgot the year. I forgot the end of
World War One,
yeah,
1914.
1914.
I think.
Yeah, it started. I think they were only in it for a couple of years. Italy was in the war, and Italy lost a tremendous amount of their soldiers. Oh, a tremendous amount. I think not only I can't remember. My brother was telling me. So then, after my father got out, that was November 11th, and they sent them back to their home. Well, I guess in Trentonada. He said you couldn't even eat. You know, they wanted to give the family or the soldiers a big meal. You couldn't eat anymore because you were only used to eating a bowl of potato soup and that was it, with 2 pieces of bread, and that was it. So my father told us a lot of stories, but we're not going to go into that because it's too much. But he survived, and he said, and this is in his lifetime, he always said, once I got out of prison, nothing in my life was difficult. Never complained. I never heard him scream at me. Never. He just lived a beautiful life. And after that, I forget how, he was 21 then, and I think he came to America.
When he came to America, what was the adjustment like for him? Did he learn English quickly?
No, he did
tell
not
you
learn,
that.
but he was so successful without learning English.
Like I said, he had come here. His brother had already established himself as a tailor, so my grandfather learned the trade. Exactly how long he was with his brother, I don't know, but I think it was in Manhattan. And then he ended up hooking up with a person who became his business partner. He was also Italian.
But he was born here.
But he was born here, so he had perfect English. So what they did is they opened up a factory to make suits.
To make men's fine clothing.
Yes.
They ended up getting a government contract, and by the end of my grandfather's career, they had employed 500 people in 2 different factories, one in Long Island City, one in New York City. And he was the one that managed the interior business with the people. So his other partner was the one who was the person who basically, I want to say the PR, the outward face of the business.
Yes, Frank.
Jackets.
They made the Eisenhower jackets, army coats, and the Navy.
Something.
It was the Navy.
Yeah, so
jackets.
we still have
and they opened 2
those.
factories. One on 12 East 12th Street, where they always were, and one in Brooklyn, Queens.
No, I said
Queens.
Long Island City.
Long Island City, but they had to take another partner there because they employed, I think, between 400 and 500
It was
people.
about 500
My
people.
father they were in super big, that he retired when he was 54 years old.
Wow.
He lived to 101, and we
bless him.
never had to give him a penny, but he gave it to us.
Lucky.
He was very generous, and his brother in Rome, he even sent him money to buy, I think you buy an apartment there, because he had to move out of where, they didn't have the money that my father had at that time. So he gave to everybody. But he never explained to us that because I have this and some, we were all
The same.
everybody in Brooklyn. Well, it was a middle class area.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Everyone
like
was
West.
equal and got along fine, right?
Yeah.
And he made his own
Clothes.
And he was so proud. He never would ever take that jacket off in his We're talking when he's 90, 95. You should get rid of it. No,
But
he made me a suit, a 3-piece suit. I mean, he made my brother clothes because, well, I mean, when you're a tailor, I guess you could do anything.
You did.
Yeah.
But I also remember the reason why in the evening a lot of men came over, all my other uncles, because we had the shortwave radio, and they wanted to hear what was going on during the wartime, World War II in Europe. So everybody came to our house, and they were all huddled around the shortwave radio. So we had it, because my father at that time, well, he must have been very successful. He never told us, but anything he always used to say, if you're going to buy one thing, buy the best. So that's why I have that furniture, 100 years old, and the lamp there.
It's beautiful.
And the lamp, and all the other grandchildren, because my brother has 4 and I have 4 children. And they all, when my father passed away, my mother died first, then all the grandchildren have a piece, they all have the furniture, a piece of something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whatever they decided to have. Like the kids say, you gotta get rid of this now, because we don't use this anymore, this kind of furniture, but it has a lot of memory.
Sure it does.
And it's so comfortable. My father would always sit in one of that special chair.
Let me ask you about you. How did you meet your husband?
Oh, okay, it's a long
Your
story.
daughter's laughing.
When we were young, living in Brooklyn, there were a lot of schools in Brooklyn, even grammar schools, which were 2 blocks from me. When the Catholic school opened up, the parochial school, which was called St. Athanasius, I think a lot of the Italian families, well, what do we know? We're going to school. That's where we're going. We're going to St. Athanasius. So we all went there. My brother went there. I went there, and then all my friends I was surrounded with later. We all went to St. Athanasius. And my brother met a lot of his friends because they were the first graduating class in this new school. And one of his friends was my husband. So in later years, that's how we got to know each other. Then my husband went to St. John's University, and my husband went to law school with Governor Cuomo.
Oh,
It was
Mario Cuomo.
Mario Cuomo.
I have so many pictures of him.
How did you land in Kingston?
The first time I ever came up here was because my husband has 1 brother, 1. So of course we came up here, and I said to myself, I don't like this place. I'm never gonna live up here. No, because I was used to Brooklyn. This was not a place. No, this was so different. But that was the story. Then we moved to New Jersey, and I loved it. We did. We loved it. I loved the neighbors. I loved everything about it. I just can't explain how much I love Brooklyn, and I did. When I came up here, it was hard.
Where we lived in New Jersey, everybody was Italian. Everybody, you felt familiar with who you were with. And all the neighbors knew each other, and they were very cordial and wonderful.
I stayed in New Jersey for 1 whole year while he stayed up here to make sure that he should make the move.
Right.
1 year later, we moved here. He said, I think we should move. And then we found this area, which,
Did you build this house?
It was new. No.
No.
It was under construction.
It was under construction.
Right.
So I think we're about out of time. It's been a wonderful conversation. But before we go, Catherine, just tell us what your favorite thing is about being Italian.
my favorite
Can you
thing.
think of
I'll
something?
tell you. I think everybody who isn't Italian wishes they would.
There you
Are.
go, that's it.
I always say that. I'm
Bravo.
happy I married an Italian. I don't think right now, I don't know. I'm not looking for anybody really, but I don't. Italian that's for me.
I
mean,
agree.
whatever.
We all agree. Well,
So
I think we're out of time here today.
I think so.
But what a nice conversation, Catherine. Joan, thank you so
Yeah.
much for being
You're
with us.
welcome.
Thank
And,
you.
hopefully we'll talk again. Maybe we can continue this. in
And
the
thank
future.
you. Yeah, there's a lot more to talk about.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.